Okay. Hello and welcome back to another Unstoppable Mumpreneur interview. And we have an amazing woman here with us tonight, an amazing mumpreneur. Her name is Kim Vopni. And I'll tell you a bit about Kim, and throughout the interview you're going to learn so much more. So please stay with us. Kim Vopni is known as the fitness doula. She is the author of Prepare to Push. What your pelvic floor and abdomen want you to know about pregnancy and birth. The owner of Pelvic Wellness Inc. and co-founder of Bellies Inc. Kim is a mom of 2 boys and is a certified fitness professional who also trained as a doula. She combines the support aspect of a doula with the fitness principles to help her pregnant clients prepare to push while postpartum, she helps her clients optimize healing and regain their core confidence for motherhood. You can find her online at www.pelvinwellness.com and www.belliesinc.com. On Facebook, you can find Kim on @pelvinwellness and @belliesinc, and on Twitter @fitnessdoula and @bellies inc. Kim, welcome to the Unstoppable Mumpreneur Telesummit.
Thank you very much.
Great. It's great to have you here. All right, so we're going to jump in there. I'm going to hand it over to you, Kim, to tell us some more about yourself, about your kids, about your journey to becoming a mumpreneur, and what actually made you decide to become a mumpreneur.
Sure. So I have 2 children. I have 2 boys, one of which is 12 years old and the other is 9. Mm-hmm. And in a roundabout way, it was because of them that I got into the work that I do now, but I didn't start it with the intention of becoming an entrepreneur, if that makes sense. So with a product that I used in my pregnancy is called the Epino, and that product was a pelvic floor biofeedback device, and it was something that I used. I had great success. I wanted to tell more people about, and I contacted the company and became a distributor. And my intention—
What is it called, sorry?
It's called the Epino, EPI-NO, and the name stands for no episiotomy.
Okay.
So it's a pelvic health and childbirth trainer. Essentially, it's a biofeedback device. And so I used it and I had great success, and none of my friends had heard about it. So few people had positive birth experiences, and I sort of felt like I had been lucky, but I had done some preparation. Mm-hmm. And so I contacted the company who manufactures the product. They're out of Germany, and I asked to become a distributor. And it was really easy. They basically said, sure, and here you go, and buy a few at home. So I started sort of selling them on the side, and I sold it through word of mouth, really through midwives that I knew, and that was kind of it. And my intention really truly was to have just a bit of side pocket money. I didn't see it as a business per se. And I sold it on the side. I had my second child, kept selling it on the side. We are from Vancouver, but we had moved to Toronto for my husband's work. And I was working full-time in a human resource position and selling the Epino on the side. And I was recognizing that I had 2 young kids in childcare full-time. I was working full-time. My husband, who's a pilot, is away a lot. We had no family around us. So I was sort of looking at the situation as a whole and thinking, I dropped my kids off at 7 in the morning. I pick them up close to 6 at night. I basically bring them home, feed them, put them to bed, and I repeat the next day. And I sort of felt like, I want more time with my kids. I would love to be at home more. And so I sort of said, I wonder if there's something I could do with Epino and make it into more of a business. And at the time I was secure in my job. I liked having my regular paycheck. So I thought, okay, I'll give myself a year to grow it on the side, and I would quit my job. But 3 months after I had sort of told myself that that's what I would do, the whole 2009 financial downturn happened. I worked for a financial services company, so my job was no longer needed, and I was let go. And all of a sudden I was it was like the universe saying, okay, well, just do it now. So that's what happened. And I didn't even know about mompreneurs. I had heard the term entrepreneur, so I knew what that meant, but I didn't know sort of the whole mompreneur world. And that was around that time Twitter was starting, Facebook had started. So I was using those methods to try to see who else was talking about what I was talking about, to see if I could truly make this into a business. So wasn't my intention, but it kind of happened accidentally on purpose, I guess you can say. And I've never looked back.
Fantastic. So you're still a distributor for Epino.
Yes. So it was pretty informal to start out with. I maybe sold 5 a year. It was very, very few at the beginning. And then not long after I had moved to Toronto, they were looking for somebody who would be kind of the official Canadian importer and work with Health Canada. So I then became that person. And then it kind of became more real, and all of a sudden I felt like this was really going to be official. And so I've been the official importer and distributor for, it's probably like 8 years now or so.
Fantastic.
So I've been selling it for about 11 years.
Fantastic.
I'm the official person for about 8 years now.
Fantastic. Wonderful. It's it happens, what you've described here happens, I think, a lot with, a lot of women have become accidental, almost. Entrepreneurs, and then what happened just flourished beautifully as it has done for you. So, great, fantastic, wonderful. So going back, you started your business again during the big recession, as we now know it. What were some of the challenges that you faced in the early days, starting out your business, and how did you overcome them?
There was a lot. I mean, I didn't know where to start, honestly. It was sort of, I was asking other people who I knew who had started a business, how do you get a register your business with the government? How do you get an official incorporation? All those types of things. And so I sort of just asked and tried and networked as much as I could. It was definitely a challenge because there is a cost involved with a lot of the services that I needed to set up a business. So finding the right person, first of all, was one challenge. And then being able to pay for that person was another net, now that I had no income coming in. So those were some challenges that I had. I relied very much on people that I met and tried to either, I don't mean copy the way that I was stealing from them, but inspired by what they had done. And they would say, hey, try this person, I use them. And, they helped me set up this part of my business. So I would take as much as I could from other people who had already done it and make sure that I was, because it's a lot to learn and implement and find the right people. So as much as you can find somebody who's already done it, it definitely helps. And so, and I had to just pay for what I could at the time. So I didn't get any bank loans. I didn't have a big stash of money that I took from. I just started to pay with, as I would sell a few Epinos, I would pay for something that I needed, and it sort of grew organically from there. So I just chose as many free services as I could find to promote my business and let it go from there.
I'm so happy you've shared that. I'm really, really pleased that you've shared that. Thank you, because, a lot of us have to self-fund. We have to, we either, not in a place to take out a loan, or we don't have, a stash of money, a mountain of it sitting, calling us out to come over and help ourselves.
We wish we had that.
We wish we did. But perhaps we wouldn't have gotten so creative either if we... Yes, exactly. And we sort of build a little at a time. I know you've touched a very important nail on the head there. You also spoke to reaching out to people who have been there and have done that, and taking on board as much as is possible instead of reinventing the wheel, something we're often tempted to do as well when we're starting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think social media definitely helped me. So Twitter was just starting and Facebook had started, and there was they called them tweet ups, I believe. They don't really do those so much anymore, but in Twitter's early days, there were tweet ups. So people who were in a common area who were all on Twitter would meet up so that there was some face-to-face time.
Okay.
And so I learned about those and I joined a few, and that's kind of what started the network, I guess.
Again,
Yeah.
The power of networking. No, valuable stuff. Very, really, very, very valuable stuff. Now, I haven't said this yet. I've been saying it on my other interviews so far, just to remind our listeners to please, you know what I'm coming with. Grab a notepad and a pen. I have mine. I'm diligently taking notes because, you know, we're always learning, and I want to be able to look back at this afterwards. I will listen to these interviews again, and I encourage all our listeners to do the same. You know, you will get a lot listening the first time around. You get so much more. So yes, grab your pen and notepad and take notes, because Kim is sharing tons of very valuable information here. Lovely. All right. So now that you're more established, Kim, you know, several years on, having been through the recession and every other challenge that life and business would have thrown your way, what are some challenges that still show up for you, and how do you manage them?
A big one for me is the ever-changing world of technology and the social media platforms. So it feels like we need to do a new website every year almost, because the one that you've just spent thousands of dollars on is now outdated or not the right layout or doesn't have the functionality. Or so that is always changing, and there's always something new, I guess. And as I get older, I get further away from who my target client is. So when I first started, I was basically my target client. I was pregnant, I had young children, and now my kids are older. I'm out of the baby stage, I'm out of the toddler stage. So I have to learn how to keep my website content current to speak to a younger generation. So I find that a challenge, and I find just managing the technology aspect of it. So always making sure I have the right person who knows the latest website design.
Yes.
And then the different advertising methods that you can use on Facebook, for instance. I feel like once I have created an ad and I've done it a couple times, in another month when I want to run that ad, they have a different algorithm now. And now you have to, so it's about finding the right people you can outsource those things to, because early on, I had to do everything myself. I didn't build a website, so that was something I absolutely had to get somebody to do for me. But other things like social media, like bookkeeping, like, you know, whatever it is, packaging, I have to do all that myself. And then eventually you get to the point when you do have a bit of income coming in where it makes more sense to outsource. If there's any type of a job or function that you can outsource for about $15 an hour, 10 or $15 an hour, it makes more sense to do that, so you can actually focus on growing the business rather than just being tied up in this crazy hamster wheel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I struggle with the constant change and trying to keep on top of that.
And outsourcing helps.
Outsourcing absolutely helps, and it's one of my key secrets, I guess, is one platform that I use is Upwork, and where you can find workers around the world, and they are contract workers in technology, website design, communications, IT support, virtual assistant, like anything you want, you could find somebody on Upwork. And there are many people who are very qualified who don't charge the same rates you would be paying I'm in North America. So often, say for a graphic designer, it would be, you know, very, very least $50, sometimes up to $80, $90 per hour. Where on Upwork, I have found great people for $15 an hour. So that's been a really huge piece for me. And it's great. I use it all the time.
Is that up as in Upwork?
Yes, it started out as Odesk, it was called, so the letter O and then desk, and they changed their name, I don't know, maybe about 6 months or so ago, and they're now Upwork. And you can just create a free account, and you can find freelancers around the world in whatever you need. I have found book layout designers, people who do, like for the courses that we teach, they have done our course manual for us. graphic design needs, like anything. We've found people on there.
Fantastic. Great. Upwork and basically outsourcing to freelancers around the world.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Sort of like a Fiverr kind of thing, but seem a bit more wide ranging if you can get VAs and all that on there as well.
Yeah, it's a bit more specific and kind of more project. Fiverr can be a bit project, but it's a little bit more, I need one poster right this very second. Whereas Upwork can be, you know, I have a manual and then you may have ongoing marketing needs that you could still use that same person for.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Good to know. It sounds like a great resource. I've certainly noted it. Great. Right. Now, in your work, you know, doing what you do, what have you found to be the number one obstacle that gets in the way of mompreneurs, and what advice would you give to help them overcome that?
I think that kind of like how I was when I, you know, again, I didn't know about the mompreneur world. I had sort of thought about maybe I could do this as a business and be at home. So the seed had kind of been planted, but the big obstacle for me was financial. So it was I had fear of just taking the leap and saying to my husband, I'm not going to have my secured income anymore. I'm just going to start my own thing and we're going to see what happens. I was afraid to do that. So in my mind, I had to somehow grow it on the side while I had the income. And then it would have given me the confidence to see that, yes, I could do this and then make my leap. And in my case, the decision was made for me. And I always ask myself, if I hadn't been laid off, I wonder what would have happened a year later. Would I have taken that leap, or would I still be working in the corporate world? And I honestly, I don't know. Sometimes I don't think I would have had the strength to do that, because you do get comfortable. And I did like my regular paycheck. I'm not going to lie. So I think an obstacle is taking that fear. So letting go of the income that you may have. But also I find for women, I talk a lot with women who have taken time away from their jobs. They left the corporate world or whatever they were doing to raise their children. And now that the kids are back in school, they're now looking for something to do. And many of them want to do something from home, but they are unsure. Like there's lots of multi-level marketing opportunities that make it fairly easy for them to start. If somebody had a business idea, they may look around and then they'd say, oh, well, there's somebody already doing it. I might as well start. So then they think, you know, what they have either isn't valuable enough or somebody's already doing it, so they might as well start. So those are kind of some of the obstacles, I think. I know you asked for one, but I gave you a couple. No. I'll take that. So advice would be just do it. Just give it a try and do it. And maybe it means doing it on the side if you need to have that secure income, if that's your situation. But there's many other people who are fitness trainers and doulas and doing childbirth education and fitness type work that I do. It's a very, very big world. There's so many people out there that need the services that you have to offer. And there are also people that resonate better with one person than another, and they want that in that choice. So
absolutely. Yeah. You've touched on something there that, you know, I have, you know, one of my mantras is related to that. There is enough out there for all of us. You know?
Absolutely.
So if even someone is doing, you know, something quite similar to what you're doing, they will not deliver it in exactly the same way.
Right. They will attract who they attract, and you will attract.
Exactly. Great. And that's another wonderful piece that you've touched on, because I'm sure that you would have asked and answered the question that's playing in many mompreneurs' mind. You know, I really can't do that because this is how, you know, so many people are doing it already. But you've answered it perfectly well. Yeah. Great. Good stuff. So, do you believe that anyone can become, I should say, holistically successful mompreneur? Do you think anyone can do that?
Yes. So I think that anybody has the potential to do that. However, I will say there's a disclaimer in there that you do need a certain mindset to be successful as an entrepreneur. You need some grit. You need some determination. You need some, maybe some wine on occasion. You need a strong support network. Because there are days where, and there's been many, and I know that there will be more, where I have sat on the floor in my office and I have cried and I said, why am I doing this? I'm done. I'm frustrated. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm, done. And so it's getting past those times. So when things are all falling apart, you need to be able to see through and find that solution. And sometimes it is blinding and you don't see that solution. So the people that can pick themselves up again and find an open door somewhere or create something new, they will be successful. The people that have the ability to self-direct, because often this is something I struggled with at the beginning too, is all of a sudden I went from having a boss and having a clear expectation of what I was supposed to do each day and deadlines and all that sort of stuff, to nobody knows if I don't do that today. Nobody knows if I sit in a coffee shop all day. And it's like, oh, I'll do it later. And so you really struggle with not having accountability. So if you can direct yourself and plan your day and set your own goals and plan, then that is definitely something that's needed to be successful. Having an idea and a desire to have a great business is key, but you need to be able to do the work, and you need to be able to get through those days that are kind of suck.
No other way to put it.
Yeah.
And we all have them.
Yes,
we all have them. Some absolute gems you've laid out there, because and this has come up throughout pretty much all the interviews I've had so far, where this question's been asked. I mean, I've had some of the experts say no. Other experts have said exactly what you said, yes. But in every instance where the yes has come about is that caveat, and it's what it takes. And the common theme, said in different ways, is mindset. It is mindset. And I really don't think that anyone is born with that mindset. It's something that's cultivated, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think that in the world that we live in now, where it's not a typical 9 to 5. Those jobs still definitely exist, but the world as a whole is very much, people work at all hours. They work on phones, they work on laptops, they work on iPads, on a ferry or an airplane. And so work can be done anytime, anywhere, which certainly lends to more entrepreneurs and more people being able to, when you have that freedom, you can do it wherever.
Absolutely.
And I think that it will be interesting to see what happens with our children. So us, the entrepreneurs now who have kids, our kids are watching us do this, and they
all the time.
The understanding of what an entrepreneur is. Will that inspire them? Will that make them run for the hills and say, I'm never doing that?
One or the other. Interestingly, and that touches on the question that we have coming up. But in response to that question, pretty much all the moms have said so far that it has positively influenced their children. Yes, there are a couple where their kids are, career orientated, but a lot of them, their kids were, more lined up to become entrepreneurs. And whether they went one way or the other, what was clear throughout was the choices opened up to them. Because you're right, our kids are watching us. I've shared before on this Telesummit that our 7-year-old, she sits there when I'm sitting with making up my to-do list on a Sunday night, and she has her little notepad busily making up hers as well.
That's great. And that instills a really good trait for her to have a good practice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So no, you're right. They are watching. They are watching indeed. Now, we've heard a lot of talk around work-life balance. And more recently, it might have been happening before, but more recently I've been hearing more about the blend, blending work and life. Which do you tend to veer more towards, Kim?
If I had to pick one of those, it would definitely be blend. I I guess as much as we want to strive, because we think we should strive for balance, it's always a give and take. There's one that's taking up more time than another on any given situation. So we've just finished summer holiday here, and that is definitely, it's not a balance in my favor with regards to the amount of work that I do. It's definitely heavily favoring looking after my kids and making sure they're entertained, and you know, we went on vacations and had a great time. And again, I do have the freedom of being able to do some of my work from wherever I am, but it was definitely more challenging and less. So now I'm kind of getting into the heavy time where the next 3 weeks for me, I have some major deadlines for some projects that I'm working on. So it's very heavy on the work side, and there's going to be a few soccer games that I miss, or, you know, that type of thing. So my kids understand that. At the end of the day though, I am with them every morning. I see them every day after school, unless I'm away on a trip for, you know, 3 or 4 days.
Yes.
But I'm always there, and I see them more than a child who may have a dual, you know, both parents working, the kind of 9 to 5 where they're out of the house at 7 and back at 7 kind of thing. So, so they understand that there are times when I have to work. They see me work, obviously, because my office is at my home. So, and that's another balance, or challenge, where I might be saying to my kids, it's, you know, time to turn your screens off. Yet I'm sitting in front of my computer working. I feel like a hypocrite sometimes, but they also understand it's different. I'm working and they're watching a movie, or they're playing a game, or so it's different, and they get that. But it's definitely a blend for me, and it definitely is. It's give and take, and I would say there's never really a balance. It's always one overtaking the other, and I'm fine with that. That's good. We just ebb and flow with it.
Absolutely. You know, this is one where I think everyone who has to choose, one or the other, went with blend so far. And then we've had, you know, a couple of the experts who came up with a third choice altogether. You know, but that's what you're going to get. I mean, it's lovely, absolutely lovely. But clearly, so far, no one's chosen balance. And I think it really does highlight the fact that, especially in today's world, especially for mompreneurs, it's a bit of a misnomer. I can see what perhaps is trying to be achieved by the concept of balance, but it just isn't that. Life and business isn't that neat and tidy, at least not all the time. It just isn't.
Right.
Yeah. Got you there. All right. So we've touched on this already, but perhaps to speak to it a bit more directly, what influence would you say being a mompreneur has had on your children so far? What's been your observations?
I think that they have, they have a really skewed view of work, to be honest, because they have seen me, an entrepreneur, really for their entire lives, pretty much. And their husband's a pilot, so he is home for chunks of time, and then he's gone for chunks of time. So again, not the kind of typical wake up, drive to work, come home, and we have dinner, and carry on. And then, so then I'm at home. So I think they have compared to many of their friends, they have quite a different understanding of what it means to have two working parents. But I think that it is giving them a perspective that being successful and contributing to a job that you love, or doing something you love, doesn't have to be what maybe the expectation is of become a lawyer or become a doctor, or whatever. So I think it's given them the idea that you can really do whatever you want, and many things could be turned into a business, and that you can design the life that you want. So if there is something you're passionate about, and it is something that you can put, really something you can put online, then you can do your business from wherever you are. So I think it's given them a different picture, or different ideas, or a different way of thinking about what work means.
Exactly. and this has come up again too. Yeah, it's about opening up those choices. I think especially in our generation, a lot of us, we were encouraged, I should say, along the career path,
Right.
in these cultures anyway,
Right.
a lot of our Western cultures. Yeah, and then we had the recession of 2008, 2009, and I think that the generation after us, they have a very different view of.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing that the kids see is they have seen me when I've been on my floor in my office crying because something fell apart. Bless you.
Thank you. That was a little sneeze on my side there. Yeah.
So they see the obstacles and they see your reaction, and they have seen me blow up or get incredibly frustrated or angry. But they've also seen how I do that. So I've always told my kids, if you're really angry and you need to yell, you grab a pillow and you put your face and you scream at the top of your lungs and you get your energy out. And so they've seen me do that, where I've been so incredibly frustrated or mad about something that I have to go and let it out. And
grab a pillow.
Yeah. So they've seen that. They've seen that even though I thought at the time something was ending, that it really, another door opened up, and then we kind of overcame that. So they see that. I think it's giving them tools to recognize that what you think is the end of the world is not. And you just have to be patient through the process. Have your frustrations, have your vent, but then you just got to kind of say, okay, now pick up, regroup, and which way am I going to go?
That's right. Don't stay stuck.
Yeah,
exactly. Don't stay stuck.
Yes.
You can get there, and you'll probably be there for a little bit, but move on. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Great. So we're down to our final question. And this is where I ask you, what is the number one habit, the number one strategy, and the number one insider secret that you think has enabled you to enjoy the success that you now enjoy?
Sure. So probably the number one habit for me is that I get up early, and I get up earlier than anybody else. And I take that precious silent time in the house when no one's awake and I can focus, and there's no pressure for me to, help find a lunch kit or help find a missing sock or whatever it is. And I can just focus on getting some work done and getting it out of the way early on. I also use that time usually to think about 3 things that I need to accomplish that day so that I stay focused, because it's very easy to get distracted with emails and, a Facebook question or whatever. So getting up early, setting my intention for the day. So the 3 things that I really need to accomplish, and then getting any of the distractive type work out of the way early on, so that during the bulk of the day, again, when the house is quiet, the kids are at school, I can focus on those 3 things that I needed to get done.
Fantastic. There's another expert who shared something quite similar about the 3 things that she needs to get done during the day. Fantastic, right? And you're...
Great. So from a strategy perspective, something that has definitely helped elevate my business, I guess, is writing a book. So it is if somebody had said to me that I would be an author, I would have laughed and I would have said, there's no way. The thought of sitting down and writing a book to me was just never going to happen. But I was working with a coach one time who pointed out some strategies and some ways to look at creating a book differently than sitting down and writing out page and page and page, page after page. So a lot of what I did actually to write my book is I recorded myself doing one of my Prepare to Push presentations. And that I then sent to a transcriber who basically writes out all the words that you said. And then I get back a document that became the foundation for my book. So from there, I was able to parcel it out into chapters and elaborate on points. But if I think about having to sit down and actually start writing a book that it ended up becoming, I don't know where I would have started. So that's a really good, a book is a way to really elevate and give you clout, and it doesn't have to be as hard as you think writing a book should be. So that would be kind of a strategy for from a business growth perspective.
Great.
And then insider secret is the one that I basically shared before, where I use Upwork. I use Upwork all the time. So if I'm writing another book now, so I needed a layout designer. The one that I had used previously was not available, so I needed somebody. So I looked for book layout, and you can search through people. You can look at their portfolios of work, and I found somebody who had bang on the vision I had for my book. I hired her. She lives in the Philippines, and we coordinate via email. I will probably never meet her in my entire life, but the work that she produces is fantastic. And and it hasn't cost me. It was significantly cheaper than what I paid with the first one. So that is hands down, to find great resources at a really, really reasonable rate. Upwork is an essential tool for an entrepreneur.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so pleased you shared about Upwork. I personally have not heard of them before. I've heard of like Fiverr and Elance, but recently I heard of Hire My Mom. That's an American-based one.
Yeah.
This is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
I do like these. I quite like these. The strategy, I'll come back to that for a bit, because I've never heard of book writing the way that you've done yours, and it just highlights that there are other ways to do it. Beside the conventional sitting down, pen and paper at hand, and going for it for an hour or two or three. It makes it manageable. Yes,
exactly. And I mean, people there's so many people that have a book in them in terms of maybe information that they like, whatever they're passionate about. They probably could talk for hours on what it is that they love to do. And if they talked into a little microphone and then sent it to somebody to transcribe, they would all of a sudden have all this content that they could use. It could even be purposed in blog posts or articles for newspapers, whatever it could be. But I had never looked at it that way before I met this coach. And again, the thought of sitting down and kind of writing out my thoughts was not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah, I struggle with writing a 400-word blog post sometimes, so there's no way I was going to get a book out. But all of a sudden, that way, it became very simple. It was simplified for me and much easier for me to use those or to use that initial transcription to kind of break it out into the section.
Fantastic, great. I'm sure that would certainly do hope that inspires someone to release the book inside of them. Here is a way to do it. Here's another very workable way to do it.
Yeah, and you don't need to find a publisher. That was the other thing too. I always thought you could find a publisher. And there's so many amazing ways to self-publish that are available to people now. That, I mean, as I said, anybody can write a book, and it doesn't need to be an overwhelming thing. So Create Space is one of the more common ones from a self-publishing perspective, and it works with Amazon. So
what's it called? Sorry?
Create Space.
Okay.
CreateSpace.com. So that is one route. And I essentially wrote my content. Well, I had it transcribed and I broke it out. I had an editor, then I had a layout person, and then I had another individual who they take the content for the book, but then they put it into the ebook format. So if you wanted to have both print and ebook, you need to have the two different formats. So Create Space kind of finds all those people for you, and you have it in one spot. I went the route where I found the people myself. But Create Space will take you through step by step on what to do and get it all done. Great.
You've been very just sharing all the wonderful resources here as well tonight. Excellent. Noted that as well. And, I hope our listeners have noted that as well. Noted that and so much more that you have said as well. And that brings us to the end of our interview. And it's been an absolute joy and delight to have you on. Thank you so much. You've shared tons and tons that would be of great value to our listeners, definitely of great value to myself. I will listen to this again, most definitely, because I want to go back and catch in the essence of time. I couldn't pull out some more answers there from you with other questions I would have liked to, related questions, of course, on things you touched on. But that's okay. We will stay connected, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me, and it was a real pleasure to share.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on board, and thank you for all you have shared. Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll say bye for now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.